Hello, welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and we're back with Warhammer the Old World content looking at the Kingdom of Bretonnia, and we're now on to the special category of units. So let's take a look, let's jump straight in, and we're on to Squires. So Squires then, average stats, they're regular infantry, they come with 25 by 25mm bases, and they got a unit size of 5+. They got hand weapons and they got longbows. They can take a full command group, and they may take fire and flee, which means they may declare fire and flee as a charge reaction, and or they could have scouts, which means after deployment they can be deployed anywhere on the tabletop 12 inches away from the enemy. So they get moved through cover, so they do not suffer penalties moving through difficult or dangerous terrain, and they can re-roll dangerous terrain tests. That's pretty situational, depends on how much terrain you put on the board and what type of terrain. Open order, peasantry, skirmishers, so they can adopt skirmish formation, and vanguard, which means after deployment they may make a normal move but not march. So, look, this is a good unit, and it does offer significant variety from your base peasant bowman, which can also skirmish but not get moved through cover, vanguards, fire and flee and all that type of stuff. So this makes this a much more mobile archer unit, particularly given you're not, with your peasant bowman, maybe you're going for those stakes, right? Which means you're going to make them pretty immobile. This is going to be a mobile archer unit, which gains the benefits of longbow, so 30-inch range and the volley fire. The biggest issue is the excellent value of cavalry with the current rule set. So this unit is competing against the costly but effective questing knights and Pegasus knights in a very points-limited category. Not quite as bad as rare, but still limited. So you've got to consider, do I want to spend my points on taking a mobile peasant bowman unit, or do I want to take questing knights and Pegasus knights? Now, for me personally, I'm defaulting to the knights, right? Because that's what I prefer in the current rule set and currently the way the game plays. So I'm not saying this unit's bad, I just think there are better choices overall for the points. Let's take a look at some of these better choices. So next up is the questing knights. Good weapon skill, strength, initiative and leadership, low ballistic skill, they're heavy cavalry, 30mm by 60mm bases, unit size of 5+. Now they got hand weapons, they got great weapons, which means they're striking last, heavy armor, shields, iron shod hooves and barding. So they are on a 3+ armor save, but it's still a 1 wound model. Still 1 wound model. They can take a full command group, they can purchase a magic standard up to 100 points, and a paragon may take a single knightly virtue and magic items up to 25 points. 0 to 1 unit per 1,000 points may become vanguard, which means after deployment they can make a normal move but not march. That is the one bit that makes them more interesting, because the great weapons, I'm suddenly like, oh my god, I've got a heavy cavalry unit that when it charges is going to strike last. But the vanguard means that you can do some interesting things with the movement. Special rules though. Blessings of the Lady, questing vows, they are stubborn and they can re-roll failed, fear, terror and panic, which does make them give them a bit more staying power. First charge, swift stride. Now they got no counter charge, but it doesn't really matter because they don't have lances anyway. So while cavalry units are in a good place rules-wise, questing knights aren't my favourite cavalry unit. I actually prefer Knights of the Realm and stuff like that over them. And that's because of the way I like to play the army. But, they've got good weapon skill and they've got high strength, but the lack of counter charge and always strikes last with great weapons, combined with not having access to full plate, means they've got to be used carefully. And what I mean by that is that that full plate would be that extra point of armor, gives them that more durability. And you've got to think, if you're striking last, are you going to have the models to attack back? So you've got to really think about what you are going to attack. Are you going after a unit that's incredibly weak, skirmishers, bowmen, that sort of thing, in which case you'll chop them down pretty quick. But if you're going to use the great weapon and get the benefit of the high strength against a higher toughness unit, there's a good chance that's going to attack you first. Which means, and if it's got a high toughness, often it's a pretty tough model and they're going to do some damage. Are you going to have the models to attack back with? So maybe if you can tie them up with something else and then charge your questing knights in, for example. There's no doubt, however, using them to charge into the rear or flank of an already engaged unit, as we've said, especially with high toughness, good armor save, is very strong. And there's no doubt they are a unit worthy of consideration dependent upon your army list. Overall, magic items, I go for the banner. I like banners that boost the whole unit. And the rampaging banner there, re-rolling the charge roll, is a nice one because you do want them to make that charge. Particularly if you're going for that rear or flank charge, you want them to make it. Because there's a good chance the enemy unit's already engaged with one of your own, and they probably need you to charge in to save them. So that's pretty important. Next up, Pegasus Knights. Now, I like these guys. Good weapon skill, strength, toughness, leadership, low ballistic skill. They are monstrous cavalry, and they do have 40 by 60 mil base size, and their unit size is 3+. So, hand weapon, lance, heavy armor, shield, ironshod hooves, and barding. Full command group and a magic standard up to 50 points. So what have we got then? They got Blessings of the Lady. They come with a Knight's Vow. So yes, you can't put your Duke with these guys because he has the Grail Vow. Counter charge. They do get counter charge, which is good. First charge, swift stride, finest warhorse. These guys do get furious charge. Why don't normal mounted Knights of the Realm get it? So if you're a Knight of the Realm and you're on foot or riding a Pegasus, you get furious charge. If you're mounted on a Bretonnian warhorse, you don't. Interesting. They get fly 10. They get dispersed formation, which means in skirmish formation they can be within 2 inches instead of 1 inch. That's probably due to the base sizes and the fact the wings are so wide on the old models. They don't. They're difficult to get that close in the first place, and look good. Lance formation, so they can have a lance formation, and skirmishers. So you can put these guys in lance formation. So that's something to remember. Right. Despite the high points cost, I really like Pegasus Knights. Right, they got 2 wounds. They fly 10 inches. So they got good mobility. Extra attacks on the charge as well, which, given the low model count, really important. Counter charge, great. Means that if you do get caught out because you're flying and you're off being mobile somewhere and then suddenly you get caught out by something else, at least you get a chance to charge back because you are carrying lances. And they're my preferred choice of cavalry in the special category. And I'll nearly always try and get a unit of 6 in an army list of 2,000 points or more. But they're not cheap. They're not cheap, but I'll always try and get them in. I really like them. Having mobile, heavy cavalry like that, I think is great. And the 2 wounds, the extra attack, just, it means that the low model count hampers them less. So they're double the points cost of a questing knight. That's a lot. And a seeming lower model count, because but the 2 wounds and the same armor save represents a unit of 6, being equivalent to 12 questing knights in terms of damage absorption, right? So if you've got 6 2 wounds or you've got 12 1 wounds, it's the same armor save. All right, so in terms of damage absorption, it's the same. The one thing you will lose is the unit strength, because on monstrous cavalry, your unit strength is 3 per model instead of the 2 you get on a questing knight, right? So that's what you are going to lose. You are going to lose a bit of unit strength. Now, a duke or a baron. So we already said this is an error that I hadn't picked up on when I was putting the slides together. Although I haven't been playing it like this in the tabletop, I hadn't put that in the slides. Which is, a duke cannot join a unit of Pegasus Knights. He comes with the Grail Vow. So with a baron on a Pegasus in the same unit makes this a mobile, hard-hitting unit. So that is an interesting thing. 6 Pegasus Knights, putting a baron on a Pegasus as well. Kitting him up with some good stuff. Especially if the character was taking the Horn of Fredemund, which means other units can't fly. These guys are going to rule the battlefield in terms of mobility. So that's pretty cool. Magic items, Rampaging Banner, re-roll the charge roll. Banner of Shalons. I think this one, Banner of Shalons, if I was going to pick a unit to put Banner of Shalons on, it would be this one. And that's because with the mobility, there's a good chance these guys are often going to be going into missile units. So the ability for them to carry this banner and then that unit of crossbowmen or whatever can't stand and shoot, really good. Handgunners can't stand and shoot, that would be amazing. So if I had to pick a unit with Banner of Shalons, this would be the unit I'd want it on, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Okay. next up. Do we have anything next? Yes, we do. We got mounted yeomen. So these are our peasants on horses. So average stats and low leadership. There you go. Peasants. Troop type is light cavalry though. They're on 25 by 50 mil bases and a unit size of 5. Right, they got hand weapons. They got cavalry spears and short bows with iron shod hoofs. They can take light armor and or shields, giving them up to a 6+ save. Sorry, a 5+ save if they take both, and a full command group. Now they can take feigned flight, which if they choose to flee as a charge reaction, they can automatically rally at the end of their move. Right, so mounted yeomen, levies, peasantry, just like the other men at arms and stuff we saw. Skirmishers, so they can go in a skirmish formation. They're fast cavalry, so they can perform a quick turn even if they march when in open order. They can fire and flee, which is quite nice. Swift stride, open order, and also reserve move. Now, mounted yeomen are definitely units worthy of consideration, but very dependent upon army list composition and playstyle, right? Because this is going to be a fast, mobile unit. The damage output's not going to be great, and they're not that durable. So, but fast light cavalry, they can be really disruptive, right, for an enemy, especially in disrupting movement. As I said, damage output's going to be low, but if you ignore it, it can rack up. You know, a vulnerable missile unit or war machine units will find themselves in combat unable to shoot. So they can be disruptive. They are, however, very vulnerable to those save missile units, right? Because they've only got a 5+ save. You know, and if you take light armor and shields, the unit only becomes 8 points per model cheaper than mounted knights around. So if you start stacking and giving that equipment to give them survivability, to give them that 5+ armor save, 8 points per model more, and you can have a knight of the realm. While this is not a go-to unit for me, and they often don't make my army lists, I prefer to spend special category on questing knights and Pegasus knights. I would definitely opt for the feigned flight there if I was going to take them, as well as the light armor and shields, despite the points cost, because I think if you're going to take them, they need it. This unit's too expensive to be a throwaway unit. It's just a unit that needs to be played smartly. This is not chaff that you're going to throw away. You know, it's not like dire wolves or stuff like that you're just going to throw in to do some disruption. This needs to be disruption, but carefully played. Okay, and then we're on to the final unit in the special category, which is the Battle Pilgrims. So Battle Pilgrims have average stats, with the Grail Reliquae has high wounds and attacks. They do have low weapon skill and ballistic skill. They come as heavy infantry, which is interesting, and they're 25 by 25 bases, but the Grail Reliquae itself, 50 by 75. You can see in the picture on the right how that fits together. Unit size is 5 to 30, and equipment, hand weapons, light armor, and shields, and they may include a Grail Reliquae if they want for the points. Special rules wise, now for the Grail Reliquae itself, it's levies and peasantry as we saw before, but you also get hatred all enemies. You get close order, you get stubborn, so the first break test automatically fall back in good order. Blessing of the Lady for your ward save. Retinue of the Saints, so your army may include one Grail Reliquae for every unit that has the Grail Vow. So that could be Grail Knights, or it could be a character with the Grail Vow. And then you've got the Grail Reliquae, so it's placed in the centre of the rank. Even if the unit turns or reforms, it cannot lose wounds if Battle Pilgrims are still alive. Counts as a musician, a standard bearer, and if within 12 inches of a Grail Vow unit, it gains immune to psychology and unbreakable special rules. Now the Battle Pilgrims that go with it, levies and peasantry, hatred all enemies, close order and stubborn. Overall, I'm not a fan of Battle Pilgrims and Grail Reliquae units in terms of the rules. It's clearly designed as an anvil style unit with stubborn, access to immune to psychology and unbreakable, but combined with the low damage output of weapon skill 2, strength 3 and 1 attack, you're not doing much with it. It's only got light armor and shields and toughness 3. So it's not durable. So the durability comes from being a large unit, i.e. going to 30 points and sacrificing models and then not breaking and fleeing because you're unbreakable. But a unit of 20 with a Grail Reliquary will cost 225 points. Now that's no small amount of points to sacrifice, right? So if you're taking a 2,500 point army, that is nearly 10% of your army that you're throwing away. So for me personally, I'm going to spend the points in special category on Questing Knights and Pegasus Knights, which can still be fairly durable, but also have mobility and much better damage output and overall be more flexible. So that's the Battle Pilgrims. And we've come to the end of the special category. Next up will be the rare category. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, hit that subscribe button. It's totally free for you to do. It's a big deal for me, so thank you for that in advance. And thanks to all those that have already hit that subscribe button and are returning for this content. You've been watching The Ghost Style. Tune back in as we continue our Kingdom of Bretonnia faction focus.